People should not wait until I die. I've never ever been honored by this country for the work that I did to contribute to the HIV/AIDS epidemic. But people would rather look at the negatives. Oh, Nkandulu this, Nkandulu this. So I want to summit the way, instead of putting the way the president put it, President Lungu, is to summit the way I'm talking. Zambians should not wait until somebody dies. Then when you die, everybody wants to be the ones on television. Oh, you know, this. I think we should stop this. If we cannot celebrate each other when we are alive, I think it is pointless. Take country in this world where they disgrace their former presidents. Tell me a country in this world where they disgrace their former ministers, where they disgrace their former MPs. Nowhere. This should be an in-house issue, where if anybody is aggrieved about the governance of Zambia, what the leadership would have done is something that should be in-house and should be discussed in-house. But to take it to the podium, to take it to the international discourse at the General Assembly, for me is sad. As somebody who is very well traveled, as somebody who is highly exposed, I think we are trading on very, very dangerous grounds as a country. Because we are gone. We are history. That's why we are working hard to see whether we can bounce back in 2026. But for now, they are in charge. So what they need to do is just get to the ground and start governing. And not make statements that will make the total 20 million.
Movement for Promoting National Values and Principles, MP and VP Executive Director Jaseke Kunda says it is unfortunate that some people have quoted former President Edgar Lungu's remarks on hypocrisy out of context, while his sentiments meant well. Mr. Kunda says his organization sees nothing wrong in the remarks uttered by the former head of state, stating that Mr. Lungu meant is for citizens to be genuine and sincere in their way of life. He adds it is not a secret that former late President Rupiah Banda was vilified by some individuals who probably cried the most during RB's funeral, such that they went to the extent of supporting the removal of his immunity. Mr. Kunda has therefore called on Zambians to reflect on the message on hypocrisy in a sober manner.
MP and VP, an organization that promotes national unity in the country, we are moved to issuing a statement with regard to the sentiments that were expressed by the 60th Republican President, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, at a time when they were burying the fourth Republican President, Mr. Rupiah Banda. President Lungu did mention that we need to avoid hypocrisy, especially between the immediate past administration and the present administration. It is unfortunate that on social media, the sentiments expressed by President Lungu has been misconstrued and misunderstood and blown out of proportion, when in actual fact, President Lungu was emphasizing on the need to be genuine and to be sincere in the way politicians and the general citizenry operate. We wish to mention the fact that when President Rupiah Banda was alive, very few people spoke positively about him. In fact, at some point, he testified during an interview that towards the removal of his immunity, presidential immunity, a lot of insinuations, claims, and blames were put and labeled against him. But now that the president is no more, we are hearing about positive things. And these same sentiments were also echoed by Dr. Maureen Mwanawasa, as she attended the funeral in Makeni. Dr. Mwanawasa did mention that we should learn as Zambians to praise and recognize individuals who have contributed massively towards our democracy, and we should learn to speak positively of them when they are still alive.
Meanwhile, United Party for National Development UPND National Youth Chairman Gilbert Leswaniso has advised the former president, Mr. Edgar Lungu, to avoid calling efforts by the New Dawn government to dialogue and unite the country as hypocrisy when he himself denied to dialogue with others during his tenure. Speaking when addressing the party structures in Namushakende area of Mongu district, Mr. Liswaniso states every well-meaning Zambian is aware that Mr. Lungu is trying to shield ministers that served in his administration who are now being investigated for corruption. The UPND National Youth Chairman has reminded the former head of state Zambia is governed by laws and not emotions. UPND National Chairperson Gilbert Leswaniso has called for unity among the leaders in the ruling party in order for President Hakainde Hichilema to succeed. He has instructed all constituency and the ward leadership to ensure they help the head of state succeed.
Ma section ina ati muno kuna ne bana ne barukataza ba PF akijwa we had these our own children who were busy suppressing us. Wherever you have a meeting, the PF will come disturb you, beating even our relative here in Amachake. But when Hakainde won an election as a party of the enemy, Hakainde said, I don't want to see any violence. Those people, we know them. We had the power as the youth of UPN to go and revenge, even beat. But Hakainde, because he loved this country, was to bring everybody on board, that we start a new life for all of us. Hakainde has traveled this country, district by district. Even the last district, which Edgar Chagwalungu, the former president of this country, he took Hakainde Chilema, that district, which is Mkoveko. Yes, I'm saying that. Yes. In this country, even the person who have traveled to this country to visit this by this, it is Hakainde. Not even Kaunda. But Hakainde Hichilema toured this country to see the challenges of the people, how they are suffering, what they are eating, in terms of economy, in terms of agriculture, health sector, school, everything. And the last district, it was Mkoveko, which Edgar Chagwalungu and his colleagues took him. And he saw what was the challenge in Mkoveko. He was almost killed. Almost killed. You, my parents here in Namshaken, you even donating 2 kwacha, 100 kwacha, to pray even for Hakainde Chilema. Even some of our grandpa died in that period because of the stress and BP and everything. But look, when he won an election, he said, please, I'm appealing to my supporters, my sympathizers, even you, the party structure. I understand what you are going through. Even meetings, who chairman is here. You could not have meetings nicely here. The PF, every structure was a militia of young people. Who created it? It was Edgar Chagwalungu and PF. And they were happy. But within 6 months, UPN has demonstrated love. Today we're having laughter to say...
We'll take a break on that note. See you shortly.
Eastern Africa, ya kupende chalo akamwana kanono nomsepela kwikala chapamo kuribe kumunzi kuribe mutauni kumadero aliyenze afunika.
The Zambia Statistics Agency will this year conduct the census across the country. The census aims to count people in households, rural and urban, hospitals, military, police and correctional facilities. This numbering will extend to hotels, farms, as well as high-density areas with different families sharing a house and those in transitory locations. Every person in the country matters and should be counted because the census will benefit all, from migrants, refugees and street children, homeless people, the young and the old people, as well as persons with disabilities. Everyone counts. This message is brought to you by the Zambia Statistics Agency.
Fairview University College is enrolling students for the January-April 2022 intake in the following: School of Education, Bachelor of Education in Early Childhood Education, Bachelor of Education in Primary Education, Bachelor of Education in Secondary Education, Bachelor of Education in Special Education, Diploma in Early Childhood Education, Diploma in Primary Education, Diploma in Secondary Education, Diploma in Special Education, Certificate in Early Childhood Education, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Diploma in Public Relations, School of Hotel and Tourism, Diploma in Food and Production, Diploma in Front Office, Diploma in Food and Beverages Management, Diploma in Hospitality and Events Management, and Diploma in Sales and Marketing. For more information, visit us at Regent College along Kwazi Road or the North Mid Campus at plot number 11 Luamba Road, Lusaka, or call us on 0955 787114 or 0966 787114 or 0977 787114. Fairview University College. We aim at excellence.
One expert. Anyone can get lucky.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. The family of a 20-year-old man who died on a Sunday last week and a body deposited in Mansa General Hospital mortuary while the body was later found eaten on the forehead by the rats has entered a new episode as postmortem failed on Friday due to the delay by the doctor to arrive at the hospital. Ngosa Mayuya, father to the deceased, wondered why the hospital is treating him in such a manner. Mr. Mayuya has also blamed the police officer who alleged kept on shooting the hospital management.
A poor place. They are just playing around to confuse us. They are just confusing us. But if I kutila, apa mumone limbi bale tina cloud kutila tipamfula abantu. That's why they are doing like this. I'm very disgusted. Ndefirwa nefya kuchitaine pano nguleni na isalangana manu pantu from that Sunday.
This is after waiting for hours for a post-mortem, which was supposed to take place around 14 hours but failed because of the doctor who was supposed to conduct the post-mortem as he was still on his way from Lusaka and could not reach Mansa district on time. But family members wondered how someone would fail to reach on time despite him starting off early in the morning to conduct the post-mortem.
Therefore, we push my question. Where is the exit for that rat to enter in there? Yes. And can the rat go from the head to that? And what is the temperature of the fridge? Yes. And how can it be that in the same fridge where that child was removed, there was another body?
Pokora namba bambo kutushika kwati mbebe ne bamwana eba bambo kutufunda wila kuma 13 hours bachitwa bati doctor afika pachembe twafuna panganda ya mariro twaisa pamochari twikara chi doctor kwekera mo kufuma pachembe apita kututa namba ufikire pachembe apita shani kututa namba fa barefo kutata tuishile basi na ifo kushika kwa na tatua akashike antu ifishinga fika moneke tafiamone kafera tukashika nganifa twala kukira panapana pamochari tatuaye apa wakulala
ndayipusha mwechalo ekoko swafumya omuntu mu fridge nokumukakulula nokuyamubika kumbi ekotatu amushire ngamba era bebe abatutumine phone kuma 13 hours ukutira doctor afika pachembe era tuishire kuno ngamba era tuishire ino 16 shani besa bebe atafuma kuchembe apita kututa ngamba bendele aendele mumu.
Helen Jisha reporting for Muvi TV News in Mansa District.
Commonwealth Secretariat Head of RU of Law, Dr. Tawanda Nondire, has commended government for having enacted the cybersecurity and crime law. Dr. Tawanda notes the cyberspace has become an effective means of use, hence users should be protected.
Congratulate Zambia for enacting the Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Act. It's one of the few countries over the past few years that has realized the importance of addressing cybercrime. Most people in this country, elsewhere on the continent and globally, have suffered from cybercrime. People who use mobile money transfer platforms, fraud, and Zambia has come up with a law. In addition, the Electronic Communications and Protections Act is a step in the right direction, and obviously the training that is being hosted by AJ Africa and where we as the Commonwealth are participating is absolutely important, both in assisting professionals, law enforcement, prosecutors, as well as the judiciary in understanding the terms of the law, how it should be applied, as well as what else can be done in order to address the problem of cybercrime. And
the Livingston residents have complained over the continued slow pace at which registration process of cooperatives is being conducted by Patents and the Company Registration Agency. The residents who made their feelings known during a community engagement on CDF utilization in Nakatinde ward note that people are willing to form incoming generating groups, but the only setback is at Pakra, where they are told that the system is down. They are that some cooperatives have taken months without being attended to due to the alleged system failure, which they are told it cannot process registration of cooperatives. The residents have since called on relevant authorities to ensure that any bottlenecks hindering or delaying people from registering their cooperatives are sorted out in time. The government has called for a complete shift on the usage of wood, fire and charcoal as a fuel for cooking among citizens to the use of gas and other environmentally friendly sources to help alleviate the devastating impact of climate change. Ministry of Energy Permanent Secretary Francisca Ziambo says the country has reached a critical point to reform in order to reverse the impact of climate or be guaranteed a bright future. Speaking when she launched Earth Hour 2022, Mrs. Ziambo says it was time when members of the public looked at the usage of gas and other environmentally friendly sources of energy as affordable because they preserve the future. And the World Wildlife Fund WWF for Nature Country Director Nachilala Nkombo called for a shift from ordinary way of doing things to environmentally friendly way of living. You're still watching Muvi TV's Primetime News. We take a break on that note. Still to come is more news items. Do not go away.
We are delighted to add Lubumbashi and Goma to our network. Welcome aboard Rwandair, Africa's safest airline that will connect you to more than 24 destinations throughout the network.
Rwandair, fly the dream of Africa.
Welcome back. In other news, an international non-governmental organization dealing in nature, World Wildlife Fund WWF for Nature, has called on the government to give a more solid and adequate stance on the controversial proposed mining project in the Zambia National Park. WWF Country Director Nachilala Nkombo says despite the United Party for National Development UPND being new in government, there are already environmental impact assessments that were conducted by agencies such as the Zambia Environmental Agency ZEMA that can be used for guidance on the matter. Speaking in an exclusive interview with Muvi TV News Saturday, Mrs. Nkombo says the impact of mining in the Lower Zambezi has a huge negative impact that does not only affect Zambia, but also the neighboring countries that benefit from the ecosystem in the Lower Zambezi.
Scientists and environmental agencies had advised against the project based on the scientific information. Nothing has changed to change the threat that the project is going to pose to the ecosystem. The ecosystem is not only important for wildlife, that ecosystem is important in the provision of water to the surrounding communities, but also to the surrounding countries. We believe that if the government goes back to the drawing board and understands the original reason ZEMA advanced for saying no to the project, I think we will get a very clear way forward in terms of what we want to do. As WWF, we're not against investment, but we believe that the government should take steps that are needed to implement its environmental sustainability policies and laws which are adequate. We also believe that our investment partners should help us ensure that we are actually protecting our biodiversity and not destroying it. Therefore, if there's money that's available for a mining project, let it be taken to an area that will not negatively impact biodiversity, will not negatively impact and put lives of people under threat. We know that mining is valuable for our country. It contributes to GDP and it contributes to jobs. But we also know that when you visit places like Chimbola, which is mining independent, there are a number of health and environmental related problems because of mining activity, which we don't really have a solution for as a country. So it's very important that we, much as we are thinking of creating jobs in Lower Zambezi, we should also have a plan on the health-related problems.
The Barotse Royal Establishment Bri through Induna, Ikakena Mutakatala Likando has announced the 2022 Komboka traditional ceremony for Nalolo will take place on the 16th April 2022. Her Royal Highness Mukwai Mbuyu Imwiko will move from Nalolo Royal Village to the upper land Muoyo. Mukwai Mbuyu is in charge of Senanga and Balloon districts of Barotse land.
Shangwe, 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 kiye zibiso yetuna kuzwerera kwa muneneye wa Rwanda kina induna ikakena mabizo akakutala ki mutakatala likando yo atebe zikutoba pamoya kutomibihera zasika salunase minabana bakoho yensu mawanyambe mane nibaikutweli bapoye zibiso kuminaki yakuli lutebe zibizazi la 16th lungu kubalona lizazi la kuomboka kwa mwaluna litungalambwera mukwa Mbuyu imwiko kachwalo bana kaufera bakabe mwaliziba manene mashushu basali bakabe hande mwa misisi ilikuli mwalizazi leo utotapisa na mani yaluna bali lalo zechwale kanasilimwe mwandi ukolo mane nisali bali silalo samukukutu sana yani mwalizazi leo mufule mikolo ya mina mutaye kwa munenenyi mutosi ndeketa mungamina kiliza zileli nde lelituna sikase lusifirwe kimunga opilo mulimu sisiketa soshwela mwamazo hwalo kase mfitisa mwitumelo kwa shaba kaufera baba kone kunela mkiti baba sasialezi batili kiswanelo yamina ya kulise mufumana kaufera mutise kwa kuta shango mwaka chao yo
International Youth Fellowship IYF has announced it will officially open the Bethel Youth Resource Center in Jalanga District to the general public next week. IYF General Secretary Martin Chama says that the organization has put up a 3-story building to be used for improving life skills as well as academic skills among the youths. Mr. Chama disclosed that President Hakainde Hichilema is expected to grace the event. Mr. Chama explained that the institution signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Child Development and was given more than 17 hectares of land on which to construct a Bethel Youth Resource Center. He says over $2 million has been spent on the construction of the facility, whose main program would be to change the mindset of young people and different life skills. He stated the program is currently running at the Cooperatives University and several correctional facilities in the country. He adds the reason behind the Mindset program came from the South Koreans, who are the main partners in the IYF organization, who in 1964 were the second poorest country in the world, but that now it is one of the most developed and richest countries in the world, and sharing the knowledge so as to enhance the mindset of people across the world Zambia is included as the IYF organization is currently in 100 countries across the globe. Lumezi Member of Parliament Mnia Zulu has alleged most of the current cabinet ministers and the new Dawn administration have been consumed with authority, which he says is causing most of them stop listening to the people who voted for them into office. Mr. Zulu says the cabinet ministers are not helping the head of state in as far as fighting corruption is concerned. He adds that most of the people appointed by the president are working against his principle. Meanwhile, Mr. Zulu has demanded ministers should ensure they work as directed by President Hichilema.
Honorable Member for Lumezi.
Thank you so very kind, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Lumezi an opportunity to give a vote of thanks on the presidential address to this House that was delivered last week on Friday.
Honorable Member, the Honorable Member for Chama South can now leave the House. Chama North, sorry. Chama North. Not Chama South, Chama North to go and clean up. Sorry, Honorable Member, you may continue.
Madam Speaker, thank you so very kind. And from the onset, permit the good people of Lumezi to mention that the presidential address was well delivered. It had good intent. And permit me also to take this August House to page 29 of his address. The President says we must all declare war against corruption. Madam Speaker, it is sickening that the President means well for this country. I know he means well. The arrogancy of his lieutenants does not impress the good people of Lumezi.
On a point of order, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, permit me to go a little bit further on behalf of the good people of Lumezi.
Order, Madam Speaker.
There is a point of order raised. What is the point of order, Honorable Minister?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for recognizing me and allowing me to raise this point of order. It's in relation to the decorum of this House and the use of unparliamentary language, which is not permitted under our standing orders. Amongst them, Standing Order 65, the use of the words sickening and arrogance in reference to the so-called lieutenants of the President is unparliamentary. I beg to have your ruling on that matter. I thank you.
Thank you so much. The Honorable Member was definitely out of order because the way the two words were used, they were unparliamentary. So for that, I'll ask the Honorable Member to withdraw those two words, sickening and arrogance, and replace them with other words. Thank you.
Thank you so very kind, Madam Speaker. And permit me to mention that English is not my mother tongue language. Permit me also, Madam Speaker, to withdraw the word sickening and to also withdraw the word arrogance. Permit me also to use a statement to say most of his cabinet ministers have been consumed with authority. They have forgotten to engage the people that gave them the mandate. Madam Speaker, through you, if we go to page 29 of the presidential speech, the President was very clear. Maybe the word clear is not suffice, he was explicit. We must all declare war against corruption. End of quote. Madam Speaker, if we go through, and permit me first of all to declare that I have never served in government before, but I've had the privilege of interacting with a lot of PF members that were in government in the previous regime. I'm not that independent member of parliament that will say I served as this or that. I enjoyed a personal relation with a lot of these members on your left. Madam Speaker, if we go through, we are building empirical evidence that we shall lay on the floor of the House on the dealings of Kapesika Group of Companies, directors at the Ministry of Youth and Sports, on the issues to do with the fuel tankers. Madam Speaker, I am receiving privileged information based on my previous relationship with people on the left, and we are going to lay evidence on the floor of the House as to how your members of parliament that are chairing certain sensitive committees are implicated, and on why, even as late as yesterday, which is less than 24 hours ago, one of your committee that is heavily publicized or heavily cherished by the citizens of this country had problems to interrogate members of Kapesika Group of Companies. It is because we have reduced a certain committee that attracts public attention based on corruption. The president said we must all declare war against corruption. But here we are, seated here, pretending to be listening to the presidential address, and we want to dramatize the presidential speech.
On that note, we take a break. We still have more news items coming up after the break. Stay tuned.
Anyone can get lucky.
University College is enrolling students for the January-April 2022 intake in the following: School of Education, Bachelor of Education in Early Childhood Education, Bachelor of Education in Primary Education, Bachelor of Education in Secondary Education, Bachelor of Education in Special Education, Diploma in Early Childhood Education, Diploma in Primary Education, Diploma in Secondary Education, Diploma in Special Education, Certificate in Early Childhood Education, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Diploma in Public Relations, School of Hotel and Tourism, Diploma in Food and Production, Diploma in Front Office, Diploma in Food and Beverages Management, Diploma in Hospitality and Events Management, and Diploma in Sales and Marketing. For more information, visit us at Regent College along Kwazi Road or the North Mid Campus at plot number 11 Luamba Road, Lusaka, or call us on 0955 787114 or 0966 787114 or 0977 787114. Fairview University College. We aim at excellence.
We are delighted to add Lubumbashi and Goma to our network. Welcome aboard Rwandair, Africa's safest airline that will connect you to more than 24 destinations throughout the network.
Rwandair, fly the dream of Africa.
Welcome back. We now join DW for international news.
Pressure's always high. Now the chance of an encounter with Russian aircraft added to it.
Yes, it's in the back of our mind, but I think that the level of training we've gotten and our expectations relative to our rules of engagement is such that we're in a position to really deal with whatever comes our way.
The Truman is more than air power. It's accompanied by missile-carrying destroyers, almost certainly a submarine. Thousands of sailors work to keep operations going. They've been at sea for months, and no one knows how long the deployment will last.
Carriers like the Truman are a classic symbol of U.S. and NATO power projection, the ability to deliver military might almost at will around the world. Now, for NATO members, that's reassuring. But for the current conflict in Ukraine, all this firepower still doesn't have much use.
NATO's focus instead has been preventing the war from widening. That's why the U.S. wants these deployments to be visible. It's why it invites reporters aboard. And it's why
the main motive and the aim of the military operation that we have started in Donbass and Ukraine.
In Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, these people are now homeless. The latest victims of war. Talk of peace seems a long way off.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Igor Zhovka. He's the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for being with us here on DW News. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that he's calling for comprehensive peace talks with Moscow. Are you optimistic that this will happen?
That's what my president is doing from the practically first day of the war. He's appealing to President Putin, not only personally in his speeches, but through our international partners to start the real peace negotiations, peace talks in order to bring peace to my country. And definitely, along with these peace talks, should be the ceasefire immediately implemented in Ukraine and the withdrawal of the Russian troops from the territory of my country. But unfortunately, this is not the case for President Putin. Most likely, he's not ready. He's still waiting for some symbolic victories he wanted to achieve on the ground. Those peace negotiations, which are taking place in the format of delegations, they are dragging on, but unfortunately with little result.
What can you tell us about the situation currently taking place in Mariupol?
Well, the situation is worsening day by day, but a positive thing, as we all finally started to see what is going on in the city, is practically the blockade and the humanitarian atrocities.
And the Ukrainian army has been able to put up some resistance there. How are they holding up right now?
Well, it's hard really there, but they are holding. You mentioned that Azov is there, but it's not really now possible to get additional armed forces to the city, unfortunately.
And Russia has said that it's fired hypersonic missiles at a weapons depot in western Ukraine. Have you been able to confirm that?
Well, we hear this news, and I think it may be, unfortunately, it may be the case. But very important, yes, you are drawing attention that they fired these hypersonic missiles, which means that most likely they are testing, this kind of weapons, and as well as other new weapons on the Ukrainian territory. So, unfortunately, this might be the case in further their operations.
And more than 6 million people are displaced within the country, according to the United Nations, mainly sheltering in the west part of the country. Could you just break down some of those immediate needs and how you're dealing with that situation?
Well, unfortunately, Russians are doing everything to make any place in Ukraine unsafe place. But for the time being, many IDPs are arriving to the territory of Western Ukraine, but our local authorities are coping in quite well. So some of the districts, oblasts of Ukraine, the population there doubled or even tripled. But for the time being, all the people who are situated in the Western Ukraine are are having good enough living conditions, and they're feeling much better than they went from on the territories where they escaped from.
Igor Zhovka, Deputy Head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
In practice, when you look at what China is doing, there is some support happening. It's happening not necessarily in terms of military assistance, but absolutely on the information space it's happening. Chinese state media, including on global social media platforms, but also on domestic platforms, are on the nightly news are echoing Moscow's disinformation, saying earlier that Zelensky had left Kyiv, saying that that there are biolabs and those kinds of debunked conspiracy theories. And so that kind of support is actually happening. In that case, Beijing's actions are speaking louder than its words. I think what we're seeing on the financial side is some, again, quiet support. They're still buying wheat, they're still buying fuel. So the fact that Beijing is not shutting off the Russian economy and is trying to, is kind of indirectly continuing to support it, is very much real action that in practice does help Russia.
So what could that support look like? Are we directing it more towards financial support or military support?
I think it's unlikely to see China really overtly giving military support to Russia, though we wouldn't know. And I do think that it's a good sign that President Biden has, told Xi specifically that that's not a good idea. I think addressing that in advance is wise. I think in terms of some of the financial support, again, I think these kinds of trade relations, other things related to payment systems, that seems more likely to me to be what could continue. But I think what's really notable is also what China's not doing. When we look at the way in which the regime has used economic leverage to silence voices abroad and use sanctions in Lithuania because of relations in Taiwan, against Norway when they gave Lo Shabao a peace prize, and so many other examples across the world to get what they want, it's so notable that they're not doing anything to try to apply along those lines, to try to apply pressure on Russia, to change it, to cease its invasion of Ukraine or to be more humane, in its military activity. So I think, again, the actions speak louder than words in terms of also what China is not doing as much as what it may be doing.
And are these Western sanctions imposed on Moscow going to bring Beijing and Russia closer together?
I think it's certainly pushing Russia closer to China. I think China probably in a lot of ways kind of wants this all to go away. They're facing their own COVID crisis with Omicron now actually really spreading in China. So I think it's certainly pushing Moscow closer to Beijing. I think we'll have to see, again, in what ways that type of assistance takes form, whether it's in terms of payment systems, trade. I think also just things like you're seeing the Russian internet with the increased censorship starting to mirror the Chinese internet a bit more. So how much of that model or any assistance there is provided. So again, I think it might be more along those types of things and things that may be more directly related to the actual conflict in Ukraine. Because it's really important to the Chinese regime to be able to at least retain a facade of neutrality from that perspective.
Okay, Sarah Cook from...
We wrap up the news on that note. To recap of the top stories. Former Minister barks at ECL's hypocrisy remarks. Gilbert Lesoniso advises the former president, ECL, not to push HH. Parker's slow pace irks residents. Youth Centre to open in Jilanga. And finally, Lumezi MP accused Nudon's cabinet ministers of being consumed with power. Thank you so much for watching the news. Continue to enjoy the rest of our programming.